Five-Star Live, Jesse Smithy here with Jaywan Mitchell, former West High School standout, former college football player, and love having Jaywan here tonight. He's going to help me break down the Central and Seymour game. Final score 49-3. And again, why are we at Joe Helton Field? Well, this is our first time to really see Central at the midpoint of the season. Week 5 is now complete. What does Central, the 5A defending state champion, look like? They're 5-0, Jaywan. Some big games coming up down the stretch here against Halls, against South Doyle. That will really test their mettle, but they didn't have much of a test tonight.
No, they didn't have much of a test. They got off to a little bit of a slow start, but once they got started things running, it was over. It was over from there. They just ran over Seymour, and they never had a chance.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a slow start for Central, and that was a bit surprising, but we got to see Jason Merritt's, number 11, the running back. It kind of hurt the first few weeks of the season. Once he's come back in the offense, they look more of a complete team now.
Yeah, I agree. Things started clicking a lot more once he started running that thing and doing his thing, and that line just kind of pushing forward and let him see, you know what I'm saying, what he had in front of him. He was able to do some things, and everything was clicking for him.
What did you think tonight of number 2, the quarterback, Dakota Fulver of Central High School? You got to see him run at times. You got to see him throw at times. And what do you think of his ability tonight?
I like his game. He seemed like a balanced quarterback. You know, he was putting it in the air. He was putting the ball in places for the wide receivers where all they had to do was just catch the ball. And unfortunately, some of them were missed. But I think he overall did a great job. He had a feel for the game. He knew when he needed to run, and he knew when he needed to let it fly. So I like what I'm seeing from him so far.
We'll be joined shortly by Bryson Rosser, the head football coach at Central High School. We'll also be joined by Liam Fortner, number 17 of the Central Bobcats, and he really had a breakout game tonight.
Yeah, I really love this game. We were talking about him during the game, and I just like his approach to the game. You know, he's an effort guy. You know, he's a skill guy, but he's also an effort guy. I see him come to a few balls that might not have been perfect and make plays on them. And, you know, he's just a hustle guy. He wants to get in that end zone. He wants to do what he can do to get his hands on the ball.
But if Central's going to make noise in 5A again, remember, you got Powell out there, you got West out there, you still got South Doyle. There's some other teams as well, but their receiving corps is going to have to step it up just a little bit.
Yeah, I was talking to one of the coaches, and he's like, you know, maybe it's the nerves. But you would think by this time in the season you kind of get over those things. But I think they're going to have to really rely on them for them to be able to get through, you know, some big games and tough games like that, because that's not an easy road. These teams that you mentioned are big time, and they're not going to be easy teams to get by.
Yeah, you're starting to see a development there with Central quarterback chemistry with Dakota Fulver, number 2, number 17, Liam Fortner. They had number 16 come around on an end around early in the game. That was kind of a big play. But, Jaywan, there are a number of times where they just had open guys that would get twisted up and cannot adjust their body to reel in just a perfectly thrown ball by Dakota Fulver.
I agree with you, and we were talking about that. You know, number 4 had a nice pass down the middle, and I thought for sure that was going to be a touchdown or a huge gain, and it was like the ball was put in the right place at the right time. He just tripped or stumbled and wasn't able to make the play, and then there was another one down at the under end of the end zone that was kind of similar to that. So, like you said, they're going to have to clean those things up and figure that out in the air, because they're going to need those guys to step up when it matters.
Nevertheless, we're starting to see the duality of Dakota Fulver at quarterback. I talked with him during the preseason. They had a scrimmage up at Farragut. I was like, look, last year it was just you throwing the ball. You were still coming back from an ACL injury as a sophomore and didn't really seem like his complete self. But tonight I saw him take it around the edge and get down the sideline and set up scores. And it just seems like, okay, maybe they don't have the big-time playmakers at receiver anymore, but if something breaks down in the passing lanes, he might still be able to make something happen with his legs.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely a shiftier guy, you know. His feet was moving real quick out there, and he, like I said, he was figuring out when it was time to run and when it was time to pass, and when he ran, he looked good out there.
Yeah, so Dakota Fulver really coming into his own as a quarterback, a little bit up and down through the first 3 weeks of the season, but definitely getting back on track now with Central. They moved to 5-0, 18-game win streak, longest in the state after Alcoa got beat by Maryville a couple weeks ago. So we'll see if Central can continue that. They take on Knox Central next weekend out of Kentucky. So the Central Bowl coming up next week, and then they get back into region play. You start to see some of those tough contests with Halls and with South Doyle, and those will really test the Central Bobcats and see if they are indeed capable of winning another 5A state championship. Jaywan, you and I were talking about Central as a program. When you were in high school, Central wasn't a state championship caliber program. Is what's it like for you to come here and see this program take a different step in the right direction?
I mean, it's definitely a shocker. You know, I mean, they've always had athletes, they have always had the players, but like we talked about, during that time, they were just kind of on a downhill spiral and not in a good way. And so to come around here and see how much it's changed and see that they were champions last year, I would have not have believed that if you would have told me around 2010, 2011. I was like, nah, get out of here with
Yeah.
that, man. But it's awesome to see how they've turned things around and that they're big time contenders and that they're a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, absolutely cool. Really cool to see what Bryson Rosser has done with this football program. We got some fans behind us tonight. What's up, guys? That's what we love about Central, and they got an awesome fan base. They were our South College student section of the week winner, so we gave them some megaphones, we gave them some sunglasses and stuff like that. So one of the better student sections in the area. Glad that they can make a cameo tonight.
Yeah, appreciate them coming by to show some love in return, man.
All right. So were you the guy that wanted to? All right, it's right down there on the ground, bro. There you go. All right, that's the last one I got. So. All right. It's like our own college game day right here.
Yes, definitely. You definitely have the atmosphere.
So
That's awesome.
Man, it's so weird how high schools have changed. When I was in high school, way back in the day, old school, like it wasn't cool to have a student section. You were quiet at the games. You sit up at the top of the stadium. And nowadays, it's like if you don't have a live student section, you're just a lame program.
Nah, you finished, man. You're finished. And I understand that because we as players, we get our energy from the fans. We get our energy from the student section. We get our energy from our players cheering us on. And so I really like that environment. It makes it a lot more fun, and it makes it great under those Friday night lights. It just makes it so much fun, man.
You want me to kind of make your stomach churn for a second? This is how crazy the Central student section is. There was a kid up there tonight that had like a play, some of those buttons that have the little pin on the back.
Yeah.
He stuck it through his skin and
my
had it hanging from his shoulder.
What in the
Yeah,
world,
to
man?
support a girlfriend or a sister. I'm not sure what it was.
Well, I hope
it was
it worked out.
disgusting. There was no blood coming down, but
Oh my
that's how
God.
crazy the Central student section is, and that's why they won
Now that's
the
some
South.
serious
Yeah, the
commitment
South
right
College
there.
student section of the week. All right, let's catch our first break tonight. When we come back, we're going to look at some scores around the area. We're going to catch up on some highlights and some big plays. Also going to have Bryson Rosser, head football coach at Central High School, and Liam Fortner, star wide receiver here at Central High School, and get some interviews with them. So stick with us right here on 5 Star Live. Welcome back to Joel Helton Field here at Central High School, where the Central Bobcats polished off Seymour High School 49-3, improved to 5-0 on the season. And again, why are we here? This wasn't one of the marquee games. Really wanted to take a look at Central and see where they are as defending state champions at the midpoint of the season. We saw Dakota Fulver throw for 234 yards tonight, 3 touchdowns. Jason Merritt's on the ground. His comeback has been key. It's really kind of rounded out this offense, and we'll discuss that with Bryson Reiser coming up here in just a minute. But 77 yards rushing tonight, 2 touchdowns, and a breakout game from number 17, Liam Fortner. This was a guy that Coach Rosser told us about in the preseason that could really have a breakout year. So far through the first 4 games, just 6 catches for about 60 yards, but tonight 5 catches, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns, and we'll be joined by Bryson and Liam here in just a moment. Do want to update you on some scores around the area. Catholic taking it on the chin tonight down at McCallie. Last I saw, they were down by 30 points there in the fourth quarter. West High School leads Oak Ridge 24-7 with 2.5 minutes left in the fourth. And again, that's a big moment for West because they didn't have Isaiah Mattress tonight, had a quad strain that he sustained during practice earlier in the week. So they had to have a running back committee approach, lean on that defense that they have at West High School. Looks like they're going to remain undefeated. Remember, we told you last week that was their first 4-0 start in school history, and they will move to 5-0. Farragut gets a big win on the road at Morristown West. Gibbs knocks off Campbell County 42-14. Science Hill takes care of Jefferson County 42-8. Austin East made a game of it there a little bit in the first half, got down 14-0 on the road at Greenville, got a pick six to tie the game at 14-all, but from that point on, all Greenville tonight. It's 49-22 with about 5 minutes left in that game. Loudon stays undefeated, 38-14 over Signal Mountain. Again, we told you about Gibbs knocking off Campbell County. Powell rolls tonight. Fulton continues to struggle. They were down 28-7 to Carnes last time I saw that score. Final score now, McCallie 56-19. That's the number 1 team in the state. They've beaten Brentwood Academy earlier this year, the 4-time defending state champion Brentwood Academy. That's coming up here to Knoxville to take on Catholic on ESPN on October 3rd. And they handle Catholic 56-19. That's a Catholic team that's still not producing much through the air. Caden Martin came in at the end of the game and got a scrap touchdown pass. But still, Jack Jancic just 1 touchdown pass through 4 games this year, and we'll see if Catholic can kind of get their passing game going. All right, I'm going to pause on the score. We're going to bring in Coach Rosser here on the set. Bryson, you want to go ahead and step on in here? Congratulations on the win there.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it.
So, Jared, do you want to run some highlights while we're talking? We'll run some highlights of the game. You can't see them, but tonight a little bit of a slow start, but still y'all are able to do some good things on offense with Dakota running the ball, with Liam Fortner kind of finally having that breakout game that we were looking for.
Yeah, we're looking to get off to a quick start offensively, especially after last week, kind of leaning on our kicking game. But I think we were fortunate to come out and score on 2 of the first 3 possessions. A couple of setbacks here and there, but continue to move the ball through the air and on the ground a little bit here and there. But I think we got pretty balanced there as the game went on, but just really happy for the guys and the performance they had.
When we came up and caught up with you guys at Farragut during the probably late in the spring, I talked with Dakota about being a dual threat quarterback again, finally getting healthy with that knee and running. You saw him make a lot of plays tonight. Is he kind of finally back to what Dakota Falver is supposed to look like?
Yeah, and like I think I told you before, we changed his game a lot last year coming off of that injury and the rehab that he had to go through. But, he's been working his butt off in the off season, and it took a while for him to show me that he was back to his old self. And we're still kind of limiting him on some things, but he definitely is somebody that you have to watch out for, not just in the pass game, but the run game.
You told me a couple times that Liam Fortner would be a guy that could possibly have a breakout 2019. Through the first 3 or 4 games, kind of modest productivity, but tonight you could really see him start to come into his own.
Yeah, and I think this was really the first time that we had him. Had some injuries and some other complications at the beginning of the season. Wasn't able to get him on the field the way we wanted to. Mm-hmm. And you just know he's hungry because his brother's killing him on the other side of the ball. So it's only a matter of time before he's going to make plays. We had the opportunity to give him the rock today, and he took full advantage of it.
Well, one of the things that Jaywan and I saw in him is that even if maybe Dakota didn't properly place the ball, he has the instincts to come back to the ball and make a play on it.
Yeah, and what most people don't know about him is Liam was the only freshman wide receiver to start 2 years ago. When Dakota went down and we had some other complications going on at quarterback, Liam was the guy that stepped up and was the only guy that played as a freshman. So the experience is there, the talent is definitely there, and now it's starting to show.
One of the things I know you're concerned about was there were a couple of pretty balls that Dakota threw that your guys just didn't reel in. And as you get into the latter half of the season now, we're making the turning point. Those catches have to be made.
Yeah, and we're hoping that we're getting all of those out of the way in the first 5 weeks of the season. We still have a dynamic group of wide receivers, a lot of experience there, and we're just hoping that those guys make those plays down the stretch that we need.
Getting attacked by bugs here, man.
Yeah, trust me, I know about it. It's the lights.
Yeah. As far as where you guys are, you're now officially at the midpoint here in the regular season. what's next? What goes into making that region championship push?
Yeah, it's very cliche, but it's 1-0. You know, we can't focus on anything else, anybody else that's on the schedule. We got to go one game at a time. You know, we kind of take our region games as postseason games for us because it is an indication of where you're going to be in the postseason. So, real happy with the performance tonight. Obviously, next week we got a non-region game. But it is, again, very cliche, but one game at a time, play the best we can, execute, and hopefully come out with a win.
You got Knox Central out of Kentucky next week. How did that game come about getting on in the schedule with the Knox Central Bowl?
Well, we're kind of waiting on one last game and was kind of searching around. And obviously, you know, like, I'm not from around here, but I want to give the kids the opportunity to play against some different talent. You know, every once in a while it's good to see how you stack up against some other places. You know, there's always border wars going on, especially Tennessee, Kentucky. You know, I've coached in that All-Star game quite a bit. So we got the opportunity to and called up coach, and it just happens to be Knox Central, Kentucky. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that, try to play it up, and looking forward to a good game.
What kind of program are they, like classification-wise? Do you know much about what kind of offense they run or anything like that?
We know a little bit. You know, last year they were a 4A state semifinalists in Kentucky. So pretty solid program, always making it into the postseason. Seem to have some pretty good players year in and year out, so it should be a pretty good match for us.
Let's say that's a game that right here before it gets kind of crazy in region play that could really serve as a good tune-up.
Yeah, we try to have one of the toughest non-regions around. You know, we played two 6A opponents in Cleveland and Hardin Valley. Always have a tough game with Fulton, and then you know, obviously going out of state for another tough game. So try to tune up our guys and give them as many experiences as they can. So one, so they can enjoy high school football, but also get ready for the meat of the program. The schedule. Sorry.
All right, well, Coach, I'm going to let you hop off here. I appreciate you joining us on set. Congratulations as always. Yes, which Fortner are you going to give it to? Who do you want to pass the mic off to first?
You gotta go, Liam. No. Let Liam finish it.
Okay, we'll let Liam finish it. All right.
Get him out
we'll bring Caleb. All right.
And let Liam bring it home.
All right. Go ahead and hand it off.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right. Good to see you as always. Yeah, pretty good. Good to see you. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Big win tonight defensively. I mean, this wasn't a Seymour team that I think was going to come in and threaten to put 50 points on the board, but still, it's an opportunity for you guys to take an opponent lightly, to stumble, and you guys didn't do that tonight. You came in focused.
Yes, sir. We came in focused. You know, we took advantage of the opportunity, and we just did what we had to do.
Their quarterback kind of had some running ability. I mean, he made some plays early on tonight with his legs, and was that something you guys were able to see and scout tonight?
Yes, sir. We saw it on film a lot. We were worried about number 6 the entire week. We knew that was our dude, and we just took care of business.
So we've been waiting on your brother to kind of have a breakout game for a long time, and he finally did that tonight.
Yes, sir. I knew it.
While you're over on doing things defensively, are you able to kind of take notice and watch what's going on?
Yes, sir. I'm always watching when he's on the field. I'm always watching him, and I knew tonight was going to be his breakout night, and he just got it done.
So, I mean, how did that kind of foresight come into play, and like you can tell when he's maybe going to have a good night? I mean, could you see it in practice or?
Well, I don't know if you knew last year, but last year against Seymour was his first touchdown as well.
Oh, really?
So I just knew Tom was going to work, and he was going to make a big night again tonight against Seymour as well.
Have y'all always been offense/defense? Him over on the offensive side of the ball, and you on defense, or?
Up till high school, he always played defense with me, but then he would switch to offense when to focus on receiver.
So do y'all work on your games together, or how can y'all feed off of each other?
We don't really work together on it. I guess we just, you know, fix our craft and work on our craft on our own.
So we're now at the midpoint in the season.
Yes, sir.
What do you like about your team this year, coming off of a state championship? And everybody's probably asking y'all, are you going to defend a state championship? But what do you like about this team right now? What do you want to see y'all get better at?
We're in mid-season form. We're finally clicking together. We're finally realizing we need to play as a team, just play together, and that's really what I'm liking about this team so far.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you joining us on 5 Star Live.
Yes,
congratulations. I like that the hair is getting back down to normal length. Yes. So hopefully, if y'all make it to Cookville again, it'll be.
Oh yeah.
How long do you want to get it? How long was it last year? It was pretty long.
It was down past my shoulders.
All right, so
I'm trying to get it back there.
Let's get it back. That's where the strength is, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's bring in Liam Fortner, one of the stars of tonight's game. Liam, thanks for joining us. Congratulations. How good did tonight feel? Finally getting some touchdowns and kind of having that breakout game.
I mean, our coach put in a great game plan for us, sir. I just took advantage of the opportunity I had with a few great plays, and I'm just glad I took those opportunities.
He mentioned some injuries and whatnot. What have you been dealing with that's kind of kept you off the field this year?
I've been dealing with a lot of sickness. I had mono.
Oh no.
Yeah, a lot of jokes. So.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, how long does that take you to get over?
Honestly, I got over it pretty fast. It's usually 2 to 4 weeks, but I got over it like 2 weeks.
Okay.
Right at it. Yes, sir.
So for you to come back, and how important is it for you to establish chemistry with Dakota? Because y'all got some big games coming up, and he needs to have somebody like you to rely on.
Yes, sir. It's kind of hard bouncing from Demetrian last year, the long, lanky, fast guy, to just a physical guy like me. So we just gotta be on the same page every play.
When Jason Merritt's came back to the lineup probably 2 weeks ago, it seemed to kind of complete this team.
Oh, yeah.
He's a guy that's got a lot of experience, can really carry the offense when they need to run the football. What kind of special talent is he, and how much do y'all need him to be healthy all year long?
Oh, he's a great running back. He's a hard runner. When I need a break, just hand it off to Jason. So he's a great player.
Y'all got some other guys, though, that can carry the ball too, right?
Yes, sir, we do. Actually, Big Abe, he's a sophomore. He got hurt preseason. Sadly, he's back, though. He actually came back this game. He's a good hard runner, too, sir.
So how did you find yourself in this wide receiver mode? As Caleb was saying, you've always kind of been defense. When did the transition happen?
So like 8th grade, I played linebacker on the other side of him. And when we just got to high school, he got much bigger than me. So I was like, I guess I just need to switch to offense. I'm a little guy.
Yeah. So how did you learn the trade? How did you learn the craft?
I guess just studying since day one. Coach Ross has always been putting plays up on the board, giving us great game plans every single game. I just study and I know the game plan in and out. So.
All right. Well, Liam, man, congratulations on finally having that breakout game, and
Yes,
good to
sir.
see you have those successes out on the field. And we're going to take a break here on 5 Star Live. We're going to come back, catch some more highlights from around the area, take a look at some big games. Elijah Young went off again tonight. He's got 20 touchdowns already this year just through 5 games. So stick with us. We're going to break all that down here coming up in the final segment of 5 Star Live. Welcome back into 5 Star Live. Jesse Smithy along with Jaywan Mitchell. And we saw 2 twins up here on set. Could you tell them apart?
Yes, the face test is hard, but if you look at the body type, 29 is a little bigger than Liam.
Okay. So that's how you do it?
Yes, that's how I do
Here's how much Liam Fortner was overshadowed by Demetrian Johnson last year. I didn't know, and I covered Central a lot, covered them all the way through the state championship game. And maybe this is bad reporting on my part, but I didn't know that Caleb Fortner, number 29, the defensive star, had a twin brother on the team.
Oh, man.
And I felt so dumb when I was doing Caleb Fortner's defensive underclassman of the year story, talking with him and with Coach Rosser, and that's when they started talking about Caleb having a twin. I'm like, what? and so now we're starting to see Liam Fortner step out of the shadow, come into his own, and a big night for him tonight. And again, Central needs that wide receiver to really step up and be the guy to complement Dakota Fulver, to complement Jason Merritt's in the backfield, and maybe Liam Fortner's that guy. We saw some good things tonight.
Yeah, I think he could definitely be that guy. You know, he seems like a veteran guy that, you know, has his composure, that can make those big plays and not be scared of the moment. And, you know, he knows how to attack the ball, come back to the ball. He doesn't wait for it to come to him. And that's the kind of player you need, especially as you talk about a wide receiver stepping out and standing out and being that guy. I think he can do that.
So Central staying in the conversation for possible contender to be to win a state championship in 5A. They won it a year ago. You got Powell in the mix. You got South Doyle in the mix. You got West High School in the mix. West did knock off Oak Ridge tonight without Isaiah Mattress at running back. So West is a complete team. One team that we don't have to talk about much more in 5A, and it's crazy to say, Fulton got beat tonight by Carnes, 28-20. I don't know what to say anymore about Fulton. It's just worst case scenario happening right now.
I mean, it's mind blowing and it's jaw dropping because, of course, everyone knows the history of Fulton and what kind of team that they've been throughout the years. It's really just a bad year for them. Like you say, you don't want to say a rebuilding year, but I mean that's what it is. You know, they're missing a lot of players through injuries. Just a lot of recruits that they missed maybe, and they're just going through this year. This is definitely their down year for sure.
Yeah, so it's going to be a tough year. I thought coming into the year that they would fight for the fourth and final playoff spot out of that region, and I'm not sure they can overcome that tonight. That's going to be – they got to find an answer. Something's got to happen, but again, Fulton loses to Carnes. I'm not sure if Carnes has ever beat Fulton. If they did, it's been – like back in the 80s, and like Fulton almost closed as a school like in the early 90s, like 92.
Wow.
So it might have been in that time.
Yeah,
we'll have to research that after the game. McMinn County wins tonight. They remain 4-0, undefeated, one of the sleeper teams in East Tennessee. McMinn County's in one of those weird places, J1, where it's halfway between Chattanooga and Knoxville, so we don't get to see them very much.
No.
But they got a really special talent in Jalen Hunt, who is the cousin, I learned, of Isaiah Mattress, and he ran for 222 yards tonight, one of the better running backs in the class of 2021.
Blood, huh?
Yeah, so very, very nice talent there and kind of a sleeper team if you're looking for one there in 6A. We told you about Catholic losing on the road tonight at McCallie, and we'll get to see Catholic very soon, but they are not producing through the air, and that makes it very easy for teams to defend if you're one-dimensional, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you need the run to open up the pass, and you need the pass to open up the run. And if you can't pass the ball, you're not going to be able to move the ball much, and you're not going to be able to produce much on offense, and that's going to put a lot of heavy weight on your defense, and that's definitely not what you want.
Speaking of producing on offense, the Kings Academy over the last 2 weeks is just gone like bonkers. They're playing football like on easy mode. They got 70 points through 3 quarters tonight.
So they playing on rookie.
They playing on rookie mode against some bum that's never played football before on the other end. But it's their wide receiver, Zach Tilley, in weeks 3 and 4 combined, receiving yards, 555.
Already?
And just in those 2 games.
Gosh.
So he has a 200-yard lead over Holden Willis going into week 5 tonight in those statistical categories on 5-star preps. And TKA is up 70-28 right now on Webb Bell Buckle. Look, they're not playing the toughest of teams.
Yeah,
but
get
still.
It's not easy to put up those kind of numbers.
And
so
see, they don't have a ton of depth, so those guys are having to stay out there longer. You look at their roster, and there might be 25, 30 guys on it at most. So
yeah, that's not an easy task.
But still, I mean, they were kind of one of those teams that we saw in 7-on-7, like, that kid looks good. That kid looks good. Their quarterback's got a good arm. Hey, let's keep an eye on TKA. So
they got sounds like they have a solid foundation. They got some nice skill players that can really make some things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. CAK gets a win tonight against Silverdale. CAK, kind of one of the surprise teams in the area so far this year as they move to 5-0 for the first time in a number of years. So Travis Mazingo and those guys got things moving in the right direction. Really a lot of blowouts in the area tonight. We talked about Austin East and Greenville. I thought that could possibly be a sneaky good game, seeing what Austin East did a week ago. Trey Foster had 8 total touchdowns and over 500 yards of total offense, and it was a game for a while, but Greenville seems to be becoming Greenville again, and they just pummeled Austin East tonight.
Well, like you say, Greenville has been a powerhouse for a while, and Austin East just started. The quarterback Foster just started getting into his own, kind of getting the feel of the team and building that chemistry and just getting back to himself. But like you said, they tried, but unfortunately they came up on the short end tonight.
So we were talking about next week, like where we want to go. You got Powell and Halls next week, battle of 5-0 teams, the battle of Emory Road. Halls, nobody saw them becoming 5-0. We also have Maryville and Farragut on the docket as well. Which game do you want to do 5-star live at? What's your vote?
Man, that's a tough one, man. Like we were discussing, I love to see my guy, Coach Cummings over there at Halls and Powell. Powell's a big-time team that everybody has their eye on, and Hawes has really been shocking us with their play. And then, Maryville, they're big-time too. We haven't got to see them yet. And, Farragut, they've been playing some nice and tough games. So it's kind of hard to say. But I don't know. It's a toss-up for me.
We'll have to think on it for a day or so.
Yeah, it's a toss-up.
I mean, there's sometimes where I'll just text y'all the night before and say, hey, we're going to be here. So you just never know what's going on up here sometimes. And so we'll see. But I think it'll be one of those two games. It's going to be crazy at Powell and Halls. Like I said, nobody saw that game coming at both teams 5-0. So
that's going to be an awesome atmosphere.
It'll be an awesome atmosphere. For the first half, maybe I'm a little worried.
I don't know about the rest.
I'm a little worried about what I saw out of Halls last night. They barely won against Carter. If you didn't catch that game on Rivalry Thursday, Carter I think played their best football of the season, and they came into that game 2-2. They're emotional. They had lost an assistant coach, Coach Moore, that had been around the program for 20 years, and our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and the community there. And they were playing for Coach Moore last night, and I thought, from start to finish, they outplayed an undefeated Halls team. They line up for a field goal, a 33-yard field goal, and it just came up maybe a yard short. And I thought it was dead on, and I thought it was good, and I thought they had beaten Halls, and just a little bit short. But a lot of turnovers, a lot of penalties out of Halls last night. And if they don't get that cleaned up against Powell, a team that we've seen, it could be a long night.
Oh yeah, it could definitely be a long night, especially you're hurting yourself, shooting yourself in the foot. That never works out for a team. So hopefully they can clean those things up and continue on that streak that they've been on.
Grace Christian gets a really big win over Notre Dame school out of Chattanooga. This is a Notre Dame team. They just pummeled them a year ago. So this is a very nice win in Division II for Rusty Bradley and the Grace Christian Rams. And I told you off the set, I predicted Grace Christian to win this game, and I had some texts for some people saying, are you crazy? Do you know something about Notre Dame that I don't? And I said, no. I just looked at Notre Dame's scores from this year, and they're not very impressive. And I just thought Rusty Bradley and that crazy offense that he runs, might put up some numbers tonight. They threw for 245. They ran for 116 more. So Rusty Bradley might have himself a team up there at Grace Christian. We might have to get out and see them this year.
Well, they're looking good, and like you say, you peeped it out, and you saw it, and it ended up being true. So maybe they are a contender.
One of the question marks we had coming into Week 5 would, how would South Doyle respond after that surprising loss to Anderson County in Week 4? Well, here's the answer. They did just fine. Elijah Young, 4 touchdowns on the ground tonight. He was their player of the game, 17 carries, 156 yards. He had a kickoff return, 5 total touchdowns in that game. Through 5 games this year, he already has 20 touchdowns total.
Wow, that's insane, man. That's almost unheard of. That's big time.
But the question mark would be like, let me get that motorcycle out of the area, was Nick Martin, their quarterback, the sophomore. He comes in place of Mason Brang, who did have that leg injury, and still waiting on a definitive word on when Mason Brang might be back. But Nick Martin struggled at times in that loss to Anderson County, and when you get into a rivalry game, emotions with Sevier County, it could have gone downhill from there, and he could have gotten rattled or really tried to do something out of his element tonight. He seemed to be steady and put up numbers and just rely on the guys around him. As an underclassman, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, that's really big time for, like you said, as an underclassman and being in that type of position, in that environment. Seems like he really kept his composure, and he stuck with it and was able to come through with the win.
Final stats on Nick Martin, again, the sophomore quarterback at South Doyle, 15 of 21, 246 yards. So if he can stay in that 200 to 250 yards passing range, I mean, that's just icing on the cake for South Doyle, and they need him to do that. Really big games coming up, especially with the team that we saw here tonight with Central.
Yeah, man, numbers like that, man, you can never go wrong with numbers like that. And he keeps stepping up and showing that he can play that role and be in that position. South Doyle will be in a great position when it comes playoff time.
So Elijah Young is probably one of the front runners for Mr. Football in 5A. We'll see if he can sustain that. But again, if you go into the playoffs and you're sitting there with a 7-3 record, you're not going to get Mr. Football. I'm just going to tell you point blank period, because I've been on a lot of those committees and voted for guys, and if you're not 9-1, you're not 10-0, it just means that, hey, you might be a finalist, but you're not the guy. And so we'll see if South Doyle can win some of those important games, not just for their playoff seeding, but for the Mr. Football hopes of Elijah Young. Again, if you hadn't heard the news, Fulton got beat tonight by Carnes 28-20. That's just mind-numbing to see Fulton lose to a Carnes program. Both of those teams came into the game without a win, and I didn't see the loss coming.
Nah, you when you hear Fulton against Corns, you definitely never think or expect that Corns will come out on top versus Fulton. And just talking to other people on the field about Fulton, just talking about the scores, everybody's shocked. Like, wow, Fulton's, on the downfall for real.
Greenback got a big win over Oliver Springs, and this was a matchup a year ago. I went to that game at Oliver Springs, and Oliver Springs gave Greenback everything they wanted. Greenback had to muster up a win there in the final minutes of the game. That did not happen tonight. Greenback, one of the better teams in 1A perennially in the state, and they flexed their muscles tonight. Holden Willis, who I mentioned there being one of the top receivers in the state, had another multi-touchdown game tonight. And Greenback, a team that we all thought could win a state championship, started off the year rough, 0-2. They're now 3-2, and really, like I said, flexing their muscle and showing what they're all about. And Braden Carnes, the transfer from Maryville, seemingly starting to fit in at quarterback. And how hard is that, do you think, for a guy to come in as a quarterback into a new school that's had guys all grow up together and play together? How hard is that, you think, to come in there and try to create some chemistry?
I mean, I think it's extremely hard, but it also just depends on what kind of guy you are. But I think it's a hard thing to do because, like you said, these guys already have relationships that they've built over the time, over years, and you're just kind of just jumping into that, and then you're learning a new system, and you might have been used to the system you were already in, and so it's kind of hard. But it seems like he's catching himself, he's picking it up, and he's getting comfortable, and he's becoming his own in this new system.
So we'll see. I mean, South Pittsburgh seems to be South Pittsburgh again. Whitwell, who won the state championship a year ago, I don't think you're going to see their names very much in the playoffs, but it could be a Greenback South Pittsburgh semifinal to see who goes on to the state championship later on this season. Again, Catholic loses tonight at McCauley, lost big 56-19. They have Science Hill next week at home. That should be a game that they win. And then it's the Brentwood Academy game on ESPN. If they lose that, they fall to 0-3 in Division II AAA. And all those doubters who said that, hey, you can't contend in this league are going to be right.
Well, I mean, it's not looking good so far, and you definitely don't want your critics to be right about something like that. So hopefully they could take advantage of, like you said, a win that should be under their belt next week, and hopefully they can gain their footing and, come up with a big game against those guys.
The weakness that I saw in Catholic, and it was a weakness because some of their players are out. We saw them in 7-on-7s. We saw them in preseason scrimmages. They just didn't have that down-the-field wide receiver threat. Chancellor Bright transferred from Middle Tennessee over to Knoxville to play for Catholic. He's a 3-star wide receiver. He's going to Marshall. But again, so far through 4 games, Jack Jancic at quarterback has 1 touchdown pass. You got guys like Tommy Winton who you can work in the slot and in the backfield. But if you're not going to be able to stretch the defense vertically and get them off the line, how easy is that for a defense to defend Catholic?
Oh, it's really easy because you can just stack the box and knowing, hey, these guys don't have a deep threat. We can just stack the box and keep them from running, and their whole offense is shut down. And when it's like that, the whole atmosphere with the offense, their confidence has to be pretty low right now.
But I know what Steve Matthews is going to do, the head football coach at Catholic High School. He's going to remind those guys that, look, we had guys like Amari Rogers on the football team, and we had a losing record at the midpoint of the season, and we still went on to win a state championship. We had guys like Cade Mays on the roster with a losing record halfway through the season, and we still went on to win a state championship. So that's going to be the message that he spreads to his team. But somebody's going to have to step up and be the guy on offense. And it's just sometimes that naturally happens, and sometimes it might have to be a coaching move, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, that's a tough situation. You always got to have somebody to come in and step up, and you always got to have a coach who's going to instill confidence in you and let you know, like, hey, you got to keep fighting, you got to keep pushing. It might be a bad start, but it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And if he can get his players to instill that into those guys and get them confident, they could possibly make a run.
Yep. Speaking of finish, I think we're finished here tonight. You ready to go?
I think I agree with you.
All right. 49-3 is the final here at Central High School, Joe Helton Field, where the Central Bobcats improved to 5-0. They have a 18-game win streak, one of the longest in the state, if not the longest, and they'll take on Knox Central out of Kentucky next week right here at Joel Helton Field and try to get to 6-0 on the season before they dive deeper into region play. For myself and for Jaywan Mitchell, thanks so much for following us here on 5 Star Live. If you missed some of the show, you can go back and watch it on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and we'll see you guys next week in Week 6.